Welcome to Magic Arcanum. I'm Ryan Gomez. Behind the scenes is Nicole Burdick, and we're so glad you're here because it's story time. Modern Horizons 3 doesn't really have its own story, but it does feature new cards for one of the game's most popular creature types, so I thought this would be a good time to answer once and for all, what are the Eldrazi? They are certainly one of the most captivating things you will find at your local game store. Second only to somebody wearing Into the AM, the sponsor of this video. That's right, Into the AM has graphic tees that will make you the best dressed wizard at your next game night. From the far corners of space to the Thunder Junction-like landscapes of Earth, they've got it all! And these aren't just cool designs on average shirts, they're cool designs on amazing shirts with a tailored fit and premium materials that are softer than a Regal Bunnycorn. Save 30% during their 4th of July sale site-wide. That's shirts, pants, hoodies, hats, jackets, underwear, everything you need to sleeve yourself the same way you do your favorite deck. And if you use promo code Magic Arcanum or just click my link down below, you'll save an additional 10% anytime on your entire order. That's more value than a Scion token. Check out my sponsor, Into the AM, and elevate your wardrobe while supporting the show, because you can't have this mustache, but you can have this style. Alright, now let's talk about the magical spaghetti monsters. Ever since their first appearance in the 2010 set Rise of the Eldrazi, these visually distinct creatures have captured the imaginations of players, both with their unique place in the game and their unique place in the game's lore. To understand what make the Eldrazi so special, you need to understand a few fundamental rules about Magic the Gathering. First, all of Magic takes place within the multiverse, made up of individual planes that were, until recently, largely unaware of each other. Prior to the opening of the Omen Paths, people would be born on their home plane and spend their whole life there, ignorant of the other planes existing across the multiverse. A few lucky individuals were born with sparks, and when these sparks ignite, they grant the ability to planeswalk, that is, travel from one plane to another. And for years, Magic's story was mostly about these planeswalkers, as we followed them on their adventures from plane to plane, tying these separate locations together with a string of connected events. So let us pretend the multiverse is a pet store. Each plane is a fish tank, and the fish in there don't know about the other tanks in the store. Each tank can have its own decorations and theme, and maybe some very special fish, or frogs, I guess, can jump from one tank to another. Okay, this metaphor is already kind of breaking, but Mama Arcanum didn't raise a quitter, so let us look at the space between the tanks. This would be the blind eternities, the magical glue that holds the multiverse together, just like the shelf in the pet store holding all of these tanks full of fish. Planeswalkers can pass through this membrane to reach other planes, and it seems now the Omen Paths provide a similar function, acting as a tunnel through the blind eternities and connecting otherwise isolated worlds. Now, these blind eternities, they aren't safe. Nobody lives there. Like I said, it is the space on the shelf between tanks in the pet store. It is functional, but it is not hospitable. That is, unless you happen to be an Eldrazi. In that case, the blind eternities, the empty space between worlds, well, that is your home. Somehow, these creatures exist where no other life can, and not only that, but they can navigate this space just as well as any planeswalker. Maybe even better. Alright, so Eldrazi exist outside of what should be possible from a story standpoint, and gameplay-wise, that's also true. Magic has 5 colors, as you probably know, but cards depicting the Eldrazi are most often colorless. This makes them feel alien and disconnected from the reality of gameplay. Normally, you play lands that make colored mana and use that to cast colored spells, right? But with the Eldrazi, you've got to summon them in odd ways, making use of wasted lands or special rocks or ancient artifacts still humming with forbidden power. When you play your Eldrazi cards in the game, they enter the battlefield and can attack and block the same as any other creature. They can even die or be exiled, whatever. But that is actually a pretty big departure from how they behave in the story. You see, the Eldrazi do come to planes, but they do so by projecting a portion of themselves there, while the rest stays in the blind eternities. To revisit our fish tank analogy, this would be like the pet store employee dipping their hand into the fish tank. From the perspective of the fish, this is crazy. All they know is life in their own tank. And suddenly, this weird-looking thing is there, and it doesn't even have gills or eyes or anything they recognize as normal. How much of the Eldrazi enters the plane? We don't really know. It could be just a fingertip, or it could be most of their presence with just a portion left in the blind eternities to serve as an anchor point. There is so much we do not know about these creatures, and I want to stress that pretty much everything we do have at this point is theory. Even if your friend tries to tell you they know, they do not know. And that's something I know, because we've heard some of the smartest characters in the story admit they do not know. If they say they know, I know they don't know because I know nobody knows. Yes, that checks out. Anyway, the Eldrazi live between worlds and can visit anyone they want, anytime they want. But why? Right? That's the real question. Well, to answer that, we've got to go back thousands of years to a time when 3 planeswalkers worked together to stop the Eldrazi from destroying everything. That's right. The first thing we learned about these guys is that they feast on planes, consuming everything there until it all breaks apart in a brilliant flash of light. Sorin, Ugin, and Nahiri realized the danger this posed to the multiverse, and their conversations provided us with some vital information, but again, also a lot of theory. Sorin was initially unbothered by the Eldrazi. He figured they'll just roam around randomly, and they are unlikely to ever reach his home of Innistrad. Ugin, however, counters this by saying the multiverse is vast, but not infinite. And so conclusively, the Eldrazi will reach Innistrad if given enough time. And mind you, this was before the mending, when planeswalkers could expect to live long enough for this to be a problem. With Sorin convinced, Ugin next declares they can't actually kill the Eldrazi because they don't know enough about their function. Removing them from the multiverse entirely could be just as dangerous as letting them run around. What if they provide some vital service? What if they keep some other bigger threat away? Ugin, one of the wisest characters in the entire Magic story, does not know for sure. So they decide to trap the Eldrazi and see what happens, knowing that they could release them again later if needed. So how do they trap the Eldrazi? That's where Nahiri comes in. She helps the trio build a network of hedrons that would work with Zendikar's natural ley lines to create a binding field across her home plane. And to me, this is an important clue because the Eldrazi are drawn to the abundant mana of Zendikar, amplified through these hedrons, right? They can sniff out the plane through the blind eternities and decide to come there based on that signal they are getting. The Eldrazi fall for the trap and get sealed away within Zendikar itself for a very long time. And as far as we can tell, nothing bad happened across the multiverse. This could mean Ugin was overly cautious, or it could mean that even while in stasis, the Eldrazi continued to perform whatever necessary function was required of them. We simply do not know. What we do know is that ultimately, Ugin's twin brother Nicol Bolas arranged for the Eldrazi to be released. How he did that exactly is pretty convoluted, and not the topic I'm covering here, but it does bring us back to the rise of the Eldrazi in 2010. With the Eldrazi loose again, a new batch of heroes, who we would come to know as the Gatewatch, took it upon themselves to try and save the day. Only this time, they went with an aggressive, channeled fireball approach that destroyed 2 of the Titans. Now, again, we don't know how much of Ulamog and Kozilek were actually harmed by this. Remember, they just stuck their hand into the Zendikar fish tank and it was burned off. Does this mean they are really dead? Or is a portion of them alive and adrift in the blind eternity somewhere? Nobody knows. Emrakul's fate is also mysterious. She left Zendikar and followed a new signal coming from Nahiri and her cryptoliths over on Innistrad. The lone Titan decided, however, that it wasn't the right time for her to consume Innistrad, and so she sealed herself away inside the plane's silver moon. And once again, we are left with conversations that hint at the desires of the Eldrazi, but much like jazz music, the important part might be what's not heard. You know? The fact that the Eldrazi seem drawn to mana sources makes me think they don't recycle dying planes, which often gets proposed as the reason for their existence and destructive tendencies. People love to submit that the Eldrazi eat planes that have outlived their usefulness, and somehow that consumed material gets put back into the multiverse, making the Eldrazi a sort of cosmic landscaping crew. And it's clear that this is something Ugin at least considered, but he didn't have any actual proof. If anything, he encountered the opposite, because he was able to lure the Eldrazi not with a dying plane, but with a vibrant one. So we have theory 2, the Eldrazi are a reset button. They seek out planes that are maybe too big, too powerful, too advanced, and they return them to dust. This would be similar to the Reapers from Mass Effect, if you're familiar with that one, and holy Heliod, I hope I didn't just give them another idea for a Universes Beyond product. Anyway, do the Eldrazi target dying worlds or lively ones? Or is it random? And Ugin and Nahiri just got really lucky that their traps worked twice. I wish I could tell you Modern Horizons 3 gave us more information to work with, but no. Supplemental sets like this, and even the commander decks that have featured Eldrazi in the past, don't advance the main story. Think of them more like moments that were happening off-screen that we missed during our first visit to this scene as it was originally playing out. So in Horizons, we got new Eldrazi cards, but they all take place on Zendikar or Innistrad, the places that we last saw the Eldrazi. Yes, the Titans each got a new card, but that does not mean they are alive and well. Tamio also got a new card, and we just saw her die. So this one just shows the moment her spark ignited, and if it helps, you can think of this whole set as a flashback for both her story and that of the Eldrazi. All of this means that despite appearing in yet another set, we are no closer to knowing what the Eldrazi are, for sure. And frankly, I kind of like it this way. I enjoy Magic having one faction that is completely outside our realm of understanding. I want them to remain mysterious and threatening and wild. They are a truly unique piece of the multiverse and something special for the game itself, so let's keep that going. Yeah? But what about you? Do you think Ugin was right to only lock the Eldrazi away? Or do you think the Gatewatch were justified in trying to destroy them once and for all? Let me know in the comments, and check out my link for Into the AM while you're down there. Grab yourself something out of this world during their sale. You'll be glad you did. Then make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the great stories you'll only find here on Magic Arcanum. We'll see ya.